Mr. Christian, for what purpose?
Yes, will the author yield for a few questions on his bill, please?
We do not have anyone presently speaking. We have amendments that are about to come up, Mr. Christian.
Okay.
The bill author will be back, but not at this time, Mr. Christian. The following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.
Amendment by Anchia.
The chair recognizes Mr. Anchia to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I wanted to draw your attention in this bill to a provision that could be damaging. In the discussion that you heard earlier between the front mic and the back mic, the author said that it was not his intent to deal with visa holders or to cover under his bill visa holders who may be required to be domiciled in their home country by U.S. immigration law, but nonetheless live in the United States, right? And I just want to point out the importance of this amendment. And as many of you may not know, I represent, along with Venton Jones, the medical district in Dallas. And I'm not going to single out the hospital, but they contacted me and they were very, very concerned because 1,300 students and faculty are on a number of different visas. And U.S. immigration law, when you're under a visa like a J-1, an H-1B, an F-1, an F-N, says you can't say you're domiciled in the United States. You have to say you are domiciled in your own country, and instead you are legally authorized. So if you look at this amendment closely, it says we're adding the criterion for purposes of domicile, for determining domicile. An individual is considered domiciled in the United States if the individual, number one, holds a valid visa issued by the federal government, and number two, has been legally present and continuously residing in Texas for 1 year. Okay, so we wanted to have an element of permanence. I raise this because we have researchers, doctors, PhD students in the Dallas Medical District who are subject to all of these visas. It is impossible for them to comply with this bill because they are domiciled in their country, and if it is a covered country, they are domiciled there, but they're living here. And because this bill covers single-family homes, representatives, they're unable to buy homes in the United States. This is very straightforward. It says for all those people here who are here under lawful visa categories that they are able to buy these single-family homes, and their domicile is not considered their foreign country for purposes of this bill, even though it is considered that under federal immigration law. It is very straightforward, and this, ladies and gentlemen, will deal with the concerns of the Dallas Medical District with respect to this bill. And I just want to give you some data. There are 1,300 students and faculty in the Dallas Medical District. 31% of them are under J1s. 30% of them are under H1Bs. 13% of them are under F1s. 9% of them are under FNs. You know, for those of you who consider yourselves MAGA, it is this administration's stated priority for the United States to be a global leader in biotech and biomedical innovation, which is exactly what's happening in the Dallas Medical District. If we are unable, and they are unable, to recruit the best and brightest to the Houston Medical District, to the Dallas Medical District, to any of the top-tier medical districts throughout this state, the opportunity and dream for American preeminence in biotech and biomedical innovation will be lost. This is a simple fix in the bill that deals with people on these visas. So I would ask that the author give it favorable consideration and that it be acceptable.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Wu, for what purpose?
would the gentleman yield for questions?
Mr. Anchia, would you yield for questions?
I will yield.
He will, Mr. Wu. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anchia. I just want to touch on a couple of points. Visa holders, if someone has a visa, are they here legally?
Yes.
In fact, a visa is official permission from the United States to be here, correct?
Correct.
And visas can be short, like a visitor's visa may only be a few months, right?
Correct.
But there are work visas, student visas, where people can be here for years, if not decades.
Correct. And let me put a fine point on that. My amendment says you have to be under a valid visa because we don't want people buying homes on a tourist visa, right? And the second plank of my amendment covers that latter situation. It says you must have been legally present and continuously residing in this state for 1 year.
And
Okay? And so that deals with people who are here on a tourist visa.
And you heard Mr. Hefner earlier say that he's not after people here who are illegal. I mean, he's not here after people here who are lawfully here, right?
What I heard from the author of this bill, which I agree with, is if people come through the front door, they are not subject to this bill.
And visa holders would be coming through the front door.
Visa holders are under, as my amendment says, under valid visas issued by the federal government. And so we have both the requirement that you're here under the under a valid visa issued by the federal government, and you've been here at least for a year. Then you're not covered by this bill, because domicile is an important term in this bill, and we want to make sure that the author is true to his word, that people who are here legally, contributing to biomedical research and our preeminence in biotech and biomedical innovation, are not penalized, but rather rewarded, so that we can recruit them to Texas, which is the 8th largest economy in the world and a center for biomedical innovation.
And I didn't, not to put a too fine point on it, it's not just biomedical or medical, right? It's also engineering firms, it's also aerospace, it's also computing, it's also the oil and gas industry.
We could be having this discussion about a number of different sectors in this state, Mr. Wu. Because Representative Jones and I share the medical district in Dallas, it is a world-class medical district with world-class researchers and physicians who are doing cutting-edge work. We do not want this bill to be a barrier to recruitment of those people. We want places like UT Southwestern, we want places like Parkland to be able to recruit the best and brightest from all over the world to come to Texas and make us preeminent leaders in this area. But to your point, Mr. Wu, it could be any sector in the United States.
Do you believe that your amendment addresses some of the issues Mr. Heffernan and I discussed between the mics?
It certainly deals with the visa holders in this bill, and I think it makes it perfectly clear that those visa holders are considered domiciled in the United States and not caught up by the vagaries of the bill.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Raymond, for what purpose?
would the gentleman yield for a question?
Would you yield, Mr. Anchia?
Yes.
He will, Mr. Raymond. Go ahead.
Thanks, Speaker. Chairman, so I guess your amendment is that you want these folks that you're talking about to be able to purchase land, et cetera, in Texas? Is that why you want this amendment?
Candidly, I just want them to be able to purchase a single-family home, Mr.
Well,
Raymond,
but
because
that's
hold
what-
on, let me finish real quick.
Okay.
Because the bill doesn't just deal with land, it even deals with buying a single-family home. And
Right.
candidly, that's a big inhibitor to recruiting people, because if you're telling them, if they're coming from one of the covered countries and they're going to be a big-time researcher at UT Southwestern, you say, no, you really can't, you can't be here, you can't buy a home with your wife and kids in Dallas. Where are they going to go? They're going to go somewhere else. They're going to go to Carnegie Mellon. They're going to go to one of the other preeminent research institutions throughout the United States. That's what I'm trying to get at here.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify, that you want them to be able to purchase, I guess, something, land.
Real
or-
estate, yes.
Real estate,
Yeah.
right. So that's what you're trying to do, is let them be able to purchase, not rent something. That you don't want them to rent condos or whatever. You want to be able to buy a condo or a house. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly
would
right.
Would you accept an amendment to your amendment that limits it to them buying a residence or a home that they can live in, just so that it's clear that that's what you're trying to do?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'd be happy to do that.
I'll leave that to the author of the bill. Is he, Mr. Hefner, listening? I was asking.
I mean,
let
if
me-
the author wants to bring an amendment to limit this to single-family homes or to a condo, or even to buy just a small business,
you can
a small
also-
business where they're acquiring the real estate. Yeah, let's let them do that.
Then you could do an amendment to your own amendment. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, sure.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Romero, for what purpose?
does the gentleman yield for
Would
question?
you yield, Mr. Anchia?
I do.
Yeah,
He
thank
will.
you for this amendment, and I really hope that people are thinking about the predicament that we're putting our universities in and our hospitals. Many times these are
And our
teaching-
businesses and our oil and gas
yeah.
sector. I mean, every sector depends on people who are our tech industry who are on these visas. Yes.
So just for my own understanding, so right now is there an opportunity for someone from these countries to rent, and rent would be the only option?
Yes, I
The
imagine that's
gentleman's
right.
time has expired.
Could I just ask a couple more questions? Extension of time, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion to extend the time. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The time is extended.
Many times, someone that comes as a researcher becomes a valuable asset to the business or the hospital or the teaching institution, and it's actually more affordable for them to buy a single-family home than even rent in certain markets.
Certainly.
So I think that's the position that your amendment is taking, to allow them some flexibility so that they can be closer and not be restricted. So these folks, so then we don't have some of the best people in the world. Is that right?
Yeah, look, I'm being selfish here, okay? I want Texas to have the best and the brightest the world has to offer. And when we recruit them vis-a-vis another state, they should be able to buy a home here.
Yeah.
They should be able to buy a home here. And guess what? When they can go to California, to Ohio, anywhere else where they're rolling out the red carpet, but instead they're wanting to come to the medical district in Houston or in Dallas, and they're going to be here on a visa, a J1, an H1B, an F1, an FN, a DAC, an AOS, an O1, a J2, a TN. None of that's covered by the bill.
Understood.
And so this would allow for that to occur.
Well, I hope that the author is really paying attention to your amendment. I think this is a great amendment, Chairman Anchia, and
And I'm not surprising him with it. We discussed this concept yesterday and today. This is something that he knows I'm concerned about.
okay. Thank you for your amendment.
Thank you.
Mr. Christian, for what
Will
purpose?
Mr. Anchia yield for a few questions?
Would you yield to Mr. Christian, Mr. Anchia?
Yes, I yield
You
to
will.
Representative Manuel.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a question looking at your amendment. It says if someone has been here legally present and continuous residing in the state for 1 year. So for instance, if we have accepted in our country a refugee from the Ukraine, which we have, and that war has been going on for over 3 years and they've been here, would this give them the ability to be able to own land, especially if they're in that part where the current president of Russia has said he will take that land, and that's the only thing that he's going to accept, which means it would make them where they could currently either lose their homes or they could be able to stay here legally, work, have a family. Is that correct?
No, it's
Under
a-
your amendment, it would
Yeah,
allow
that-
them to do that.
Precisely, and that's a really interesting point. You can have, I mean, where apparently there are negotiations where part of Ukraine may be ceded to Russia, right? If you have a Ukrainian refugee here who was actually born in one of the regions that is ceded to Russia, that would be their country of origin. And they may be here on refugee status. And if we do not do this, they will be covered. They will be covered by the bill.
And lastly, do you know if all refugees are considered to be stateless or if they still have their nationality with them when they come here?
So under U.S. immigration law, you cannot say that your domicile is the United States if you're under one of these visa categories, okay? You are prohibited. It is impossible for you to declare the United States as your domicile. Instead, you must say that your domicile is your country of origin or the country that you most immediately have come from.
So without your amendment, we would be telling refugees that we legally allowed in here with our immigration laws that they could no longer own any property in the state of Texas, and if they did currently own land or business in this state, then the state can legally take that from them. Is that correct?
If you are a Christian refugee that has experienced Iranian persecution,
Thank you.
and you are here on a temporary protective status or some other visa category, you are covered by this bill, and you should not be. And that's what my amendment tries to do.
Thank you so much for
Mr.
this
Manuel,
amendment.
please excuse me for calling you Mr. Christian.
Thank you, Christian.
You're good, Mr. Charlie Guerin.
Thank you. I hope it's acceptable to the author.
Mr. Hefner to speak against the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate Mr. Anchia. He always does things here and goes about it the right way, but I understand and appreciate the intent, but I do believe there may be another amendment in the queue that is more carefully crafted and could more
Mr.
tailored to achieve the
Anchia, for
best
what
outcome.
purpose?
Thank you. Will the gentleman yield for some
Would
questions?
you yield, Mr. Hefner?
Yes.
Since you used those words, I'm going to ask you, Cole, my Chairman Hefner, I'm sorry.
You're fine. My
What,
daddy
what,
gave me that
what
name.
about
I
this
like
is
it
not?
just fine.
What about this is not carefully crafted?
Well, I'd like to see the other amendment and have it laid out, and I do appreciate your concerns, and I do believe you bring a valid concern. But I just believe there's another amendment that may more adequately address it.
So you see where this amendment appears, right, in the bill? This is very, very clear, and it speaks to the issue of domicile, right? And so it speaks to the subchapter on domicile, and only that subchapter, and because that subchapter lays out criteria for determining domicile, right?
Right.
And one of those criteria is if your domicile is in one of the covered countries, correct?
Yes.
Right. And so if your domicile is in one of the covered countries, you are covered by the bill, and you're otherwise not validly here, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you also would acknowledge that federal law, if you're here on a visa, requires you to list your domicile as that country of origin, right? You are unable to list the United States, correct?
That is correct.
Right. So you would acknowledge that that would be problematic for someone who is on a visa category here. And what this amendment tries to do is very directly and clearly say, hey, if you're here on a valid visa issued by the United States, and then I even included something for belt and suspenders. We want you to be here for at least a year, so you can't be here validly under a tourist visa, right? That's not going to work. You have to be here for a year, continuously residing. Then for purposes of the bill, your domicile is not your covered country, but instead your domicile is here. To me, that's a very direct way to deal with the issue. Would you not agree?
Well, like I said, I guess there's more ways, more than one way to skin a cat. But respectfully, I'm going to go with the other amendment and see what it looks like when we get
Okay, but you would agree that this is this speaks to your desire to have people who have come through the front door not be covered by the bill. You would acknowledge that?
To a degree, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Motion to table.
Mr. Anchia to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I appreciated the dialogue with Chairman Hefner. This is the most direct way we can deal with this issue, which he has acknowledged is an issue in his own bill. All right? We can pass any other amendment he wants to pass, and then they'll be read together. But this makes it very, very clear that if you are a legal visa holder in the United States, even if you're from one of the covered countries and you've lived here for a year, you are not prohibited from purchasing real estate. This is common sense. I did not try to sneak this on. This was discussed with him yesterday and today, and even on the mic, I believe that Representative Hefner has acknowledged this is an issue in the bill. So for those of you who are very, very proud of the Dallas Medical District, of the Houston Medical District, of the technology corridor in North Dallas, Texas Instruments, all our tech companies that we were very excited about, right? That have J1 visa holders, H1B visa holders, F1 visa holders, FN visa holders, DAC, H4, O1, J2, TN1, ASY, OTH, L2, TPS, that those people will be permitted to pursue the American dream here in this state so that we can continue to be competitive in all of those sectors we mentioned. And with that, I ask you, please, 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 adopt this amendment and make it clear for all where you stand on this issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members.
Members, there's a motion to table in front of you. There's a record vote has been requested. If you are for the motion to table, vote aye. If you're against the motion to table, vote nay. It's a record vote. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Little and Mr. Hefner voting aye. Show Mr. Wu voting no. Vote from your desk, members. We'll give you plenty of time. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? There being 82 ayes, 62 nays, the motion to table passes.